He's a seasoned researcher and teacher, father of two awesome boys, and has a strong passion for translating good ideas from social science into practical tools to work smarter. I'm delighted to welcome and have a conversation with David Burkus, author of Friend of a Friend on Small Talk. I'm your host, Javed Khan. David Burkus, author of Friend of a Friend. Welcome to Small Talk.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me.
David, it's a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to this conversation today because, and first and foremost, David, Happy New Year to you, my friend.
Yeah, you as well. Hopefully holiday season went well for you.
The holiday season went great, and revving up for 2019, I'm sure, as you are too. And one of the conversations we're going to have today, which is quite relevant here, because I'm sure people are back into the new year and going to go start doing some networking and meeting people and growing their networks. Interesting conversation that I watched on a video, and you talked about this one question, folks, that David talks about that many people, I would suspect a lot of people, are not asking when they meet and connect with people at networking events. Share that thought process with us, my friend.
Yeah. So, I mean, at first, I think we should probably hit the wrong question that most people are asking, right? So the wrong question, I mean, this is the time of year, especially when people are like, oh, I'm thinking about making career change, new job, what have you. I need to grow my network. So you go out and you meet people, and the question we all default to, at least in North America, if not the Western world as a whole, is, so what do you do, right? Which is a weird question to ask when you look into the world of network science, which is what I've done when I was writing Friend of a Friend, because there are different types of connections. So in network science lingo, if you only know someone in one context, we call that a uniplex tie. But if you know someone in multiple different contexts, so maybe you know them from work-related thing, but you also know about what their hobbies are, you also have a shared, maybe you have kids in the same elementary school, or maybe you have the same hobby, whatever it is, we call those a multiplex tie. When there are multiple contexts for connections, you have a multiplex tie. The problem with a so what do you do question is that you're already meeting that person in a work-related context. It's why you're at that event to begin with. And so when you ask it, you're sending a strong signal that I just want to stay in that one lane. And what you don't do is explore the multiplexity. You don't explore what other commonalities you might have in common. Humans are multifaceted creatures, and you build a deeper relationship stronger when you start exploring them from multiple facets and understand all of them. So the so what do you do question doesn't do that. What you took note of was a video I made about a better question to get in the habit of asking, which is, so what excites you right now? This is a good time of year to ask the so what excites you question, because everybody's thinking about what does 2019 have in store. But what I like about it is that it's open-ended. The other person can answer in a work context, or they could tell you about this new goal that they just set, or this achievement that their kid just did, or that they just did. Whatever is the most exciting thing to them right now, they can start talking about. And as a result, you get to know them from a couple different angles.
So, David, do you think, just from your research and your experience and your perspective, do you think people are asking that what do you do question just because of simple comfort level? Or why are people just asking? Because you're right, that's the first question people ask. And for me, it's not a comfortable question for me, because I really don't want to be sharing what I do. I want to know more about that individual outside of the work environment, as you say, as another human being. So why do you think people ask that specific question all the time?
Yeah, so two reasons probably. So one is just defaults. It's just what everybody else does. But how did it get to be what everybody else does, right? And that's the second piece. I think in a work context, I mean, a lot of people unfortunately have this idea that these networking events, mixers, the unstructured cocktail hour time at a conference, et cetera, this is time to meet new people. And what we want to have happen is that serendipitous stuff that people write business movies and articles and stuff about that random meeting that turned into $1 billion idea. And so when we meet someone, we go into immediate evaluation mode. Am I useful to them? Are they useful to me? And we try and do that in a work context, because obviously we're here for a work thing. But if you've ever, if you've probably gone to one of those events, tried that and come up empty-handed, right? Or been on the receiving end when you noticed that somebody just judged you as not valuable to them, and now they're looking over your shoulder, right, at who else they could meet with. Relationships take time to have a return on that relationship. We call it in network science social capital, right? It's capital, like financial capital or human capital. It takes time to build, and it builds faster when you get to know someone from multiple different angles. You are very few people will you ever be able to walk away from that first conversation with being like, this is exactly how I can be useful to them or they useful to me. It doesn't work like that. You've got to be in it for the long haul. And what do you do is not a long haul question.
So let me then ask this follow-up question for those folks who are watching this segment, and perhaps they watch it, they go to a networking event or any conference event, as you suggested, and they ask this question about what excites you today or now. And then they come back and then watch this segment again and they say, okay, well, I asked that question. What other questions should I be asking outside of the what excites you today or what excites you now?
So this is a really good point, because some people may be like, well, the question isn't me. It sounds weird. I'm generally a pretty extroverted, peppy person. And so what excites you is a good question for me. But anything that explores somebody from a little bit different non-work angle. So what excites you is great. Where did you grow up is a good sort of background question. What are you looking forward to, right? It's January 2019. What are you looking forward to? Same trick as the what excites you, because you can answer in a couple different contexts. But there are even others. You know, what's a charitable cause you support? Truthfully, because I'm a bit of a nerd, my favorite question to ask people in a little bit more nerdy context is who's your favorite superhero? Because everybody has a favorite superhero, or they hate superheroes. In either case, when you ask the follow-up question, why, you learn a lot about that person that you wouldn't otherwise. If you've got a favorite superhero, chances are you've got a story behind why you like that person. And I learn something about you when I know that story.
Hey, I love that. You're a superhero. I love that question about the superhero. Fascinating conversation here, folks, with David Burkus. He's the author of Friend of a Friend. He's come and join us here on Small Talk. His contact information has been popping up here and there on the screen, and some other information about David. So please, the idea here is to, start with this conversation, reach out to David, join him on any of his social media channels. Definitely watch his videos, especially those folks who are on LinkedIn. You gotta watch these videos, follow him, and you're not only can watch them here, but if you're into the podcast, you'll see a podcast version of this show, and his contact information is there. David, this is amazing. Now I got another question just before we conclude our conversation today. You've written this book, Friend of a Friend, and that's cool. What other insights can people get from that book outside of the conversation we had today?
Yeah, so the book itself is kind of a distillation of about 50 years of research into the world of network science, which is the field of studying who's connected to whom and why and how and all of that. The biggest probably takeaway, I think, is the book argues for a mindset shift. I hear people say all the time, oh, I need to build my network. I need to grow my network. I think I actually said it by accident earlier in this interview. If I did, my mistake. The truth is you don't have a network, right? Networking is not a verb and it's not a noun. It's not something we have it is a noun, but it's not yours. You can't own it. You exist inside of a network, and your best strategy is to understand that one that you're already swimming in, figure out where you are in it and where you need to go and navigate it appropriately. You can't grow your network. You don't have one. You exist inside of a network.
David Burkus joins us here at Small Talk, author of Friend of a Friend. Contact information's there. You can also listen to the podcast version of the show. Go over to either SoundCloud or iTunes, and his contact information's also all on there too. Now, David, we've got a question we always ask our guests. If you had an opportunity to have a small talk conversation with anyone living or past, who would that be?
So this is kind of like the superhero question. I like this. I would go with Milton Hershey, founder of Hershey Foods.
Wow, amazing. Milton. Now, why Milton Hershey?
So not a lot of people know this. I grew up outside of Philadelphia, kind of close to Hershey. Not a lot of people know this, but Milton built a whole town around Hershey Foods. And his biggest achievement is he and his wife built a school for orphans. So it was the Milton Hershey School for Orphans. And the craziest thing to me is that right before he died, when he was preparing his estate, he willed all of his shares of Hershey Foods into a trust that funded the school. So it's not that Hershey Foods gives a donation to the school every year. Every Hershey company is actually owned by the school. They're the majority shareholder. So this is 100 years before social entrepreneurship was a buzzword or anything like that. This guy was really actually the pioneer in business as a form of social good. And so I'd love the chance to kind of see what's on his mind and then connect it to where we are right now in what everyone's saying about social entrepreneurship.
Wow, that is amazing. I'm going to check out more information about this individual. That is amazing. Great conversation. Thank you for that answer. And folks, again, David Burkus, please look him up on LinkedIn and all the other social media channels that we're going to provide you with. He's got a book. He's the author, Friend of a Friend. Check that out. As I mentioned earlier, the videos, he's crushing it with these videos. Go check it out on LinkedIn, and I'm sure they're on the other social media channels. David, thank you again for being here on Small Talk.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. This is a great small talk about small talk. It was great.
Thank you to David Burkus, author of Friend of a Friend, for joining me on Small Talk. You can also listen to the show as part of our podcast series. Now it's your turn. Please comment, subscribe, and share. If you've got a topic you'd like to discuss on the show, please give me a call or send me an email. We'll talk with you next time.